So I'm Scott Taylor, the Data Whisperer. Some of you probably follow me on LinkedIn. Some of you know me. Some of you don't know me. Some of you might know me all too well. But I love data, and the most important kind of data I love is, of course, master data. And I'm always looking for new ways that people can enhance it, create it, use it, and that sort of thing. So I met up with the folks at CDQ, and we're very excited to share with you the way they manage and help people organize and share, literally share this master data for better customer and supplier foundational information. We're going to talk about what is data sharing. So let's dive right into that, because I think, as I mentioned, it's important to set some context. So when people hear data sharing, they start to freak out. They start to think about personal data. They start to think about PII. Uh-oh, is some organization going to steal my identity? Let's put this to rest right up front. This is not about personal data. This is not about people data. This is about company data, organizational data. So while there's PII, personally identifiable information, maybe you want to think about this as a category. We're just thinking about this now. CII. Commercially identifiable information. That's data in a lot of cases that the people who it's about, or the organizations that it's about, they want people to know about this data. They want people to have a standardized view of it. They want there to be no issue around disambiguating the sources. So this is data that organizations want people to know about because it's based on the vendor and partner and supplier and customer relationships that they have with each other. So we're talking very, very specifically now around the domain of company data and the foundational information about that company. There's a lot of aspects to data sharing. There's data marketplaces, there's data exchanges, there's some software platforms out there that enable data sharing between enterprises. My view of that is a lot of that is around kind of attributes, kind of metrics, enrichment. So if you think about just a plain old table, good way to think about data, there's columns and there's rows. Most people kind of share the columns. The columns, though, are what the rows are about. And in this case, if you follow along with my poetry, this is about really sharing rows of data, the unique identifiers, the company identifiers, the category, the really basic foundational stuff that you hang all the rest of that data on. So part of what makes this a unique proposition and a unique opportunity is, in essence, people are sharing the rows and allow themselves to add more columns. And every enterprise out there that I have seen and I have dealt with has trouble with this kind of party data. If you don't think you have it, give me a call. I'm going to convince you that you do. So everybody I have talked to, enterprises all over the world, are struggling with acquiring this kind of data, managing it, trusting it. It is a constant struggle, as old as party data itself. Kai, why don't you take us through what you mean by data sharing over at CDQ?
Regarding the data sharing, as you said, it's not so much about the columns. It's also about the columns, also about, for example, data quality KPIs and stuff. But it's more, as you said, about the rows. And what we mean, or what we try to tackle with the data sharing, how we implement it, it's shown on this slide. You have very many changes over the world, like changing addresses, changing legal forms, new tax numbers, changing tax numbers, mergers, acquisitions. Companies go out of business, you have insolvencies, and so on. So many of these events, so to say, happen all the time, all over the world, as shown here. And the interesting part is, especially for the domain of business partner data, they affect many companies. So it's not only one company having a specific customer, but this company is the customer also of many other companies. And the very simple and very basic idea of data sharing in our terms is just that these companies who are seen here on the left-hand side somehow collaborate, join forces in order to tackle this data management challenge. The challenge in terms of covering, identifying these updates and bringing them into their data world, into their databases. So this is what it's all about. And our part in this game is just to providing the infrastructure on the one hand, but on the other hand also to organizing, structuring, enabling the community, the standardization of data models, the definition of common data quality standards, and so on.
And it's a really important aspect here to remind everybody. You're all struggling and trying to manage something that's remarkably similar. In my experience, your challenges around this space are more the same than they are different, no matter what vertical you might be in. And so the data that Kai was mentioning too are the types of things that everybody who has a relationship with that entity wants to know. Did they change their address? Do they have a different tax ID? Do they have multiple identifiers depending on the countries that they're located in? So again, the common basic stuff. What you do with those organizations, that's proprietary, that's special, that's what you want to keep to yourself. But these basic rows, again, we're going to keep coming back to that imagery, are really important to get standardized across a community.